Welcome to Prime Life. We call it Retirement 2.0. Leave each episode with tips and new ideas to help you navigate retirement in our new age. It's your time. Make it count.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not intended as medical, investment, or financial advice. We do not sponsor or endorse any of the individuals, companies, products, or services featured on this podcast. Any statements or opinions expressed are of the individual who makes them. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Prime Life Podcast. Excited to be here with the full co-host collection. So, Laura, how you doing?
You know, Joseph, I'm doing well. It's been a little while, but it's also the heat of summer. So it's good to be here with you all today and some lovely air conditioning. But I know that our guest is sitting in a tempered climate. So, Mary, how are things for you today?
They're pretty good. It's been a busy day, which is always nice. And I haven't been out since early this morning. So I don't know what the weather is out there. I think it's pretty warm, but it is summer. So I'm good with it.
That's a good thing.
Mary, tell us, who do we have on today's show?
We have a pretty fabulous guy. His name is Scott Stolze. He's the founder, I love part of this next title, and Chief Relationship Officer. What would we do without someone like that? Seriously. For GrowX Labs. Very intriguing company name. And he's committed to helping people think about and look at things differently. Scott, welcome to the Prime Life Podcast. I know it's been a while since you and I have connected, although we did have our prep call. So it's really great. I saw you on LinkedIn and I remembered you very fondly. And I said, Scott's a cool guy. We need to get him on because I know he's doing really neat stuff. So here we are. Scott, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Mary. I appreciate the shout out and the way you went about this and reconnecting. Mary and I met several years ago in the Boston area. And I actually told a couple of friends and coworkers of mine how somebody had seen a post of mine on LinkedIn. And I think, you know, little things like that, recognizing and acknowledging somebody, and even from a post, be it social media or LinkedIn, is really good these days because it's helping to keep, we might talk about this a little bit today, it's helping to keep some of that human element involved. We're very reliant on digital, but when we can reach out to each other, it makes a big deal. It's a big deal, and it made a good impression on me. Thanks for having me, all three of you, and to your audience, Laura, Joseph. It's really great to meet you. Again, my name is Scott Stolze. I'm actually born and raised from Connecticut originally, and now I live in the much warmer climate of Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm currently in Florida because I'm going to spend a good chunk of the rest of the summer on the East Coast visiting family and friends and doing a little work here. Thankfully, with GrowX Labs and what I do these days, which I'll try to summarize really briefly so we can keep things moving, it really doesn't matter where I'm located with the exception of an occasional client or partnership meeting. So I'm very grateful to have those opportunities to get out from 115 degrees in Scottsdale, which is exactly what it is right now, and be closer to family and friends on the East Coast. You know, I'll be very brief. Since I was young, I used to walk into rooms, and hopefully some of your audience can resonate and relate to this, and really not be sure of myself. I used to walk into rooms, whether it was people I knew or certainly when it was a lot of strangers in professional settings, and wonder, you know, how am I going to represent myself? How nervous am I going to be when somebody asks who I am or what I do? And am I even going to do a good job with it? And Mary knows a little bit about this from our previous interactions in Boston several years ago, that I've made it a mission of mine when I was in my 20s, and I was really tired of being so nervous and anxiety ridden in those situations. I said, you know, I'm gonna work on my communication, number one, but I'm also going to work on how I can connect with other people in a way where, number one, it's about them, and number two, they're feeling special, and all of us can just have a much easier, more fun time connecting. And I'm not saying I've done a great job at it, but I think I've done a pretty good job. And it feeds well into what I do now, which is with GrowX Labs. What we did, we launched GrowX Labs last summer. I have a lot of corporate experience and had most recently worked for a management consulting business in Arizona. And several of us left, and we launched a business, GrowX Labs, in which we help small business owners solve their biggest problem. And to just paint the picture of that really quickly, and then we can get into some questions, is you meet a lot of great small business owners out there. And what typically it happens is they're really good at what they do. Their product or their service, they know it well. They created it. They were trained in it. They came up with it in it. But the business as a whole, they struggle in one or two things. It could be marketing. It could be people and hiring. It could be finance, doing their books. So we like to come in, understand what a business owner, what his or her goals are. What do they want more of for their team? Where are they taking the business? And what's your biggest challenge? What is keeping you up at night? What are you not doing well? And we're going to bring the resources to the table to help you do that so you can continue to focus on what you're great at. And there is definitely a need for that. And especially, I'll end with this, in today's world where it's really important that businesses of all sizes demonstrate how unique they are and what makes them different. We have information in whatever we need at our fingertips, data-wise. But to be special in your service or in who you are as a person, you have to stand out. You have to be unique. So we like to help business owners do that, and we'll take care of some of the things in their business that they're not so good at.
So in Mary's introduction, she said, you help people think differently, which I think might be Apple's copyright there, but we could digest that later. What are the biggest issues you're seeing and that people are challenged with, especially in today's day and age when you have technology coming at you in 100 ways, to think differently and change the way they're maybe doing something that they've been doing for 10, 20, 30 years?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I will admit I'll start a little general or big picture macro, but happy to dive down deeper if anybody here thinks it's valuable. So as you know, all three of you, I'm sure, very much think about this pretty regularly, if not a lot. That we're just inundated with information every day, mainly through things on our TV and certainly via our phones and laptops. And a lot of it's good. A lot of it's good, but some of it's not so good, and some of it's distracting, and some of it's toxic. And what I've learned over time is it's not so much that there's one particular tactic that works well for everybody. I do not believe that. I think we all have to do what works for ourselves. A morning routine, for example, for me may be very different and not work well for Mary, say. But so I encourage, as I organically meet people, whether I work with them formally or not, and say, hey, think about some of the things that you've learned as of late and ask yourself questions. I'm really big on, this is something that helped me in the last, say, 15 years or so, is I always challenge myself with good questions to say, is this providing value to me? And more importantly, is it providing value through me to others? Is this something that is helping me feel good, in the moment or for today, something I read or heard online? Or is it something that's a little bit more evergreen and sticky that I can take with me and use in a very valuable way going forward? I think part of what I'm saying, Joseph, is when I say help people think differently, it's usually through the form of questions you can ask yourself so that you really work through and wade through all the noise and then figure out what's really important or really valuable. And one other quick example, for somebody who's a little bit old, I'm actually in Florida helping my dad out. My mom passed away earlier this year, and we're doing a lot to get the condo on the market and help him take care of some health issues. And he's not very good with technology, not very great on his phone or even his laptop. He's okay. And I ask him all the time, Dad, if I'm not here and you have a phone call coming through or an appointment and they want you to set it online, are you testing? Are you trying? Are you experimenting? And maybe more importantly, are you asking for help where you need it? And that's something I encourage a lot of people to, is in today's world, we think we have to know a lot of the answers, but actually people gravitate to those who are not afraid to ask for help. One, because often many of us like to give help. It helps us feel good. And two, we respect that. Nobody really wants to be surrounded by a know-it-all. I actually really am drawn to people who say, you know what, I'm not sure, I could use a little help. I'm like, oh, great, let me help you out. It's an attractive quality to have. And I think that goes for all of us, whatever age we're at.
It's interesting, right? You think about it a little bit and wanting to help others. It makes me curious if it's attractive because it empowers the person in addition to providing the insight. So anyway, I'm going to chew on that a little bit. But as you talk about some skills, and as you know, we mentioned in this conversation and previous ones, the world around us is forever changing. It's changing in ways of technology. It's changing in ways of culture. It's just changing constantly. So as you're looking forward, it could be 6 months, 1 year, 3 years. What are some important skills that individuals should be working on based on today's world? And I guess within that, I'll break it down into 2 categories. So people who may be later in the traditional work side of things, so say 60s and 50s, 60s, 70s even, where should they be focusing? And then how does that differ, if it does, from someone very earlier in their career?
And we'll get that answer after a brief word from our commercial sponsors.
NASA is always working harder to be your carrier of choice. We offer insurance products that can help you meet your retirement goals, such as protecting your savings, securing lifetime income, or paying for healthcare costs. We're dedicated to providing best-in-class service and are keeping things simple, and we'll have your back. We have around 400,000 policyholders and contract holders and have been doing this for a long time, 170 years. But we remain humble enough to always try to improve. For more information, visit nfg.com. NASA insurance products are issued by Nassau Life and Annuity Company of Hartford, Connecticut, Nassau Life Insurance Company, East Greenbush, New York, or Nassau Life Insurance Company of Kansas, Overland Park, Kansas. Subsidiaries of Nassau Financial Group. Products are not available in all areas. Policyholder counts are for all Nassau companies as of September 30th, 2022, and are subject to change.
Yeah, good questions. Haven't heard that one or something close to it in a while, so I appreciate that. I think starting with somebody who's a little bit later in their career, the idea, the notion of having a lot of wisdom is always going to be valuable. I think it does get lost at times because people want to move quickly and people want to rely on tools and technology. And sometimes somebody's knowledge that they've accrued over time can be either taken for granted or overlooked. What I would say in that case is, and I know it's not always easy. It sounds great now in a conversation like this, but you have to put the effort in and believe in yourself, is offer help, offer it through experience. You know, if you can help paint a picture for somebody, and instead of telling, because as we know, telling isn't always effective, showing's much more effective. So is storytelling for that matter, but really demonstrating for others can be very helpful. So sometimes if you're a little bit further along in your career and you're not as savvy on some of the tools like somebody else you work with, but you've experienced a situation before, try to offer, do your best at times to offer and say, hey, you know what, I might be able to help with that. Here's something that I experienced. Granted, it was 10, 12, 15 years ago, but let me paint the picture for you of what played out in that case and see if there's anything that you can take from this. You see, I think it's really important when we frame it of offering help and giving suggestions and letting people pull what they want. Because, you know, conversely to what I was saying a few minutes ago, where some people are drawn to those who ask for help, we can also put up a wall and be resistant to those who we feel are telling us what to do. So it's really important so from a skill perspective, Laura, work on framing conversations around, hey, I have a suggestion for you. Can I share this with you? And then give them examples of things that you learned over time and end it with something to the effect of, hey, you know, maybe there's something you can pull from that will help you. And if you have any more questions or you want to talk about this further, let me know. I'm happy to do it. That way you're looked at, even if you're further along in your career, you're looked at as somebody who's supportive. Because I think all four of us, I bet you guys are going to know exactly what I mean when I say this. We've all seen that person who's been around for a while, who does think they're kind of a know-it-all, and they get frustrated when they hear different ideas and they're not listened to. And they're going to get shut out. Because if they come across or have the energy of, I know all the answers, why aren't you coming to me? People are going to be, it's human nature. We're going to be annoyed by that, even if they're not a bad person, and probably shut them out. So extend and offer help and do it in a way that is more easily received by those, and continue to say, I'm here to support you. This is sort of more in your head than you're verbally stating this, but I'm about everybody here, not just me. And I think in the corporate, in my experience in corporate, you see a lot of self-preservation type behavior. So I would highly recommend stay away from that and be more of that olive branch of support and help.
Can I just throw a quick twist on that? Because in the corporate world, you'll see this a lot. At least I have. They will ask the question as if they're trying to offer help, but then they'll tell you how they want you to do it. It's kind of a backwards way of getting there.
Yeah, and I agree. And I would just flat out say that that's a mistake. That's why I know a lot of this is, I mean, anything that I do communication and connection wise, and Mary alluded to, chief relationship officer, my team and I, when we launched last year, we actually thought that was a very fitting role or title for me, because literally what I do is build, cultivate, nurture relationships with people we do business with. And I'll always be of that mindset. And it's taken me a long time to figure out how, and I stumble all the time. And there's not a week that goes by where I don't say, shoot, I should have handled that a little bit better in this conversation. But to your point, Joseph, yeah, it's just, that is a wrong way to do it. And that's why Mary, I know for sure, has looked and talked about this, and you two probably have too. That's why self-reflection is really important. We only learn, books are great, podcasts are great, but we really only learn by asking ourselves upon having done things. How did I do? How did I handle that? What could I have done better? And maybe there's people you work with, all three of you, or people that you do business with, clients, customers. Encourage them to say, what could I do better? And maybe simply my delivery of a suggestion to somebody, if it's done in a more, open way, as opposed to, this is really what you need to do, it's going to be better received. And then ultimately that makes me more valuable. If people are worried about losing their jobs to technology, which is valid in today's world to a degree, I think it's a little overplayed, but then you have to constantly think about, how can I make myself more valuable? And normally you do that, yes, by knowing some tools, but you really do that by making a positive impact on others who want to keep you around because they enjoy working with you.
Scott, when you and I were doing our prep call, we talked about, some of the clients that you work with who could be on the older side. And we talked about could be a little bit of fear, especially with AI and all the different tools that are out there and automation. In the work that you do with your older clients per se, how do you kind of explain to them where you see people still fitting into the mix so that they are not so, worried about that? And then what kind of suggestions would you give them in terms of those that maybe need to bone up, if you will, on their technology skills without feeling like they have to totally rely on maybe you or your company, but they're working with you, but they don't feel like, oh, I can't learn that because I've been in business for 30 years or more even?
Yeah, another great question. And Laura, I haven't forgot. Laura had asked a part two about younger people and some skills. So if we have time, I will work my way back to that too.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is some crossover here. So yes, Laura, for a while I was working with a lot of home services owners, which are HVAC, plumbing, electrical, roofing. They tended to be the business owners tend to be a little bit older. So it's a great fitting question. What I would say and I know every business is a little different, but for somebody who's in that space of trying to figure out their value still when technology is so prevalent, is I would always frame things, well, not always, but often frame things around customers. So I would say things like, and really for any of you out there, no matter what you do, anybody who hears this, you're still working, you're retired, semi-retired, you're dealing with family, friends, asking yourself, what is it that other people respond well to in my circles? So if you own a business, you definitely want to know what your customers respond well to. Do they want that phone call, or are they okay with a text? Do they want the technician coming into their home and asking questions and spending time with them? Or is it the customer who said, just, go up into my attic or figure out the ducts and get the air blowing again and you be on your way? Knowing what your audience, your customers, your friends, and your family want is really important. I don't know about you all, but I definitely have friends and family I'm close to too. Some love to talk for extended times, 30, 40, 45 minutes. Others want to be quick and to the point. So always be connected. to what it is other people in your circle really want and crave. Because the more you can deliver what it is they want, the more important, the more valuable you're always. That's just the way the world works. I'm not saying that's always right, because sometimes we can feel a little minimized, like, man, I'm always giving to people, always giving, but I'm not getting a lot in return. Well, welcome to real world. That is often, especially in business, how it is. And people are receptive to that. So that's one thing. Think about your customers and what it is that they want. And the other thing that I think is really helpful in today's world is to attract good talent and even customers really embrace technology. So I think it was Laura who mentioned empowered. I love that word. There's some words I love, some words I don't. I don't like the word coaching because it's a little too condescending in my mind for some reason. I don't like to coach people. I share, listen, provide some input. I think empowering people is really big in today's world, especially when they're going to feel a little minimized or threatened by technology. So what I say to people of all ages, including younger people, Laura, is definitely learn what tools can help you in your day-to-day life, your job, and or your business. Learn. You may not need to master all of them, but please learn 1, 2, or 3 of them that help you do your job better or your business run more effectively. And then, especially if you're an owner or if you're around a lot, give somebody in your circle an opportunity to implement, integrate, use that technology, because that's going to do 2 or 3 things. That's going to empower other people. They're going to be excited. Oh, he or she trusts me to do this. You're going to lean into them more. Your business or your job is probably, the technology is so good these days, it's probably going to benefit. I don't know if you all would agree, but not every tool is perfect. But if you use some of this technology, it's going to benefit your job or your business. And it's going to show you, lastly, is it's going to show that you're a very open-minded, nimble, dynamic person. The last thing, again, I hate to pigeonhole people, but the last thing that people really want to see in today's world anymore, because people don't have time for it, is somebody who's really dead set in their ways. That's a very unattractive quality. You maybe can do it if your circle is small and you're retired and you're home most of the time. Knock yourself out. I'm not judging, but if you're interacting, selling, working, or helping other family and friends, being very open-minded and nimble is really important in today's world.
So we've had people on the show talk about lifelong learning, and the importance for their cognitive ability and so on. What you're describing is not so much, I wouldn't call it maybe lifelong learning, but maybe more soft skills. Are there specific areas that you would recommend people focus more of their time if they want to improve this area of their life?
Are you talking specifically about like soft and people skills?
Yeah. It
So
sounds like that's the direction you're really focused.
it is, and that's a great call out, Joseph. If for no other reason, I'm surrounded by people who are really good with technology. I mean, I know it okay. Actually, the irony of my career is early on, I worked for a software company on client sites year round, helping with implementations, but I had no technical background, but I was surrounded by developers and architects who did, obviously. I just was the conduit with the clients. Taught me a lot of skills, probably one of the best things I ever did in my life. So I do defer and default to the people skills, those skills that you were referring to, which I think will always be needed and valuable. So what I suggest in reference to your question, Joseph, is putting one thing I did when I realized early in my career how nervous I was around other people, or God forbid I was ever asked to speak up or present in a meeting, and I was very nervous, like trembling nervous in front of the room. One of the many things I did was I purposely put myself in more situations like that. So I would encourage anybody of any age and any point in your career or life, just put yourself, I know it's a little cliche, but in uncomfortable situations, and you can make it a little smoother for yourself. So get around people and be very curious. I highly or strongly recommend demonstrating a lot of curiosity, because number one, that helps you learn. And number two, it soothes out some of your own anxiety. Because think about walking into a room full of people you don't know. Well, if you think you have to impress them, you're going to be more nervous. If you think you need to learn about them, your anxiety will subside a little bit. So put yourself in these situations, go in with a mindset of curiosity and learning, ask the good questions, not what do you do, but hey, what's maybe the most exciting thing that's happened for you or your job or for your business in the last several months? What is most exciting about the second half of this year? What brought you to this event? Is there something in particular that jumped out to you? A little specificity goes a long way, because then it allows somebody to open up more. That's number one. And then number two is, this is a little soft and gray. I know. I've gotten the feedback before, but on your walks, in the car, at the gym, in the shower, not every time, but ask yourself good questions too. Like I was referring to earlier, we really learn a lot post experiences and say, hey, what could have gone better? When I read how people were responding to me at the meeting today, I might even ask myself tonight, how were the three people I was looking at in my screen during this conversation? Did they seem bored? Were they dialed in, tuned out? Ask yourself good questions, because honestly, there's nothing we can be more grateful for than the data our day-to-day life gives us. Like, I'm getting data all day, every day, based on the things that I do. And that's why I think instead of just scrolling or jumping on Netflix as soon as you eat dinner, put a little time in to say, hey, what went well today? What could I have done better?
So for someone who might not be used to that practice, and I do think it's a good idea, what do you recommend? Is it journaling? Is it writing it down? Is it voice memos? Like, how would you recommend someone could consider starting?
I love that question, only because I've gone from 7 years ago thinking I need to follow every tactic that an influencer online had to you have to figure out what works for yourself. I used to journal. It sort of fell off. I realized I wasn't getting as much out of it. I tried meditating 2 or 3 times, disaster. Jumped in some cold water a couple times. Fun, woke me up, but I don't have access to that. You really need to figure out what's good for. It's a good question, because I would encourage anybody who hears this to be open-minded to experimenting a little bit. See what works for you. I go for walks every day, and most days I try to work two in, one in the morning and one at night. And thankfully, I live in climates that allow me to do that year round. So on those walks, that is my meditation, that is my self-reflection, and that is my learning time. It's crazy, because I'm able to, and that works for me. I'm getting a little older. I'm over 50 now, and I still go to the gym and I still hike a lot. But my walks, I'm finding, are where my whole body kind of just decompress and brain decompress. And I only discovered that, Laura, through trial and error. So really put some time in, or thought. It's not a lot. It's just a little thought here and there. When am I most at peace with myself? That's a question that I used to ask. When am I most at peace or available to process and think in a substantive way what's going on? Because sometimes maybe being in the car or on the T in Boston or on the subway in New York or on a plane isn't the best time. You think you're going to have time, but you don't. So figure out when is that time where you're able to really process things in your head, and then leverage it even more.
So, Scott, as we kind of wind down our conversation before Laura asks the last question, what are a couple of key takeaways that you'd like for our audience to remember about our conversation today that you believe would be helpful in the short term?
Thank you for asking. And I'll do one that's a little sort of technical, black, white, and then one that's a little bit more in the gray, personal side. So one is, the reality is, the way the world is working now is please do expose yourself and be receptive to what technology is offering. I don't want to, I would encourage people to not subscribe to a lot of what we're seeing on X, on Instagram, and other platforms about the majority of jobs are going away and people are going to be replaced. Now, that is going to happen in spots, and anecdotally, it's going to happen. But I really believe this with my heart. Otherwise, I would not share it, whether it was 1 or 1,000 people that heard it. We do have control over our path. And I do believe with my heart that if you apply yourself to say, you know what, I'm going to be very mindful of the value that I bring to others. I'm going to consistently demonstrate a supportive mindset and helpful, and where I contribute to the success of others, or my job, or my business, or even my family and friends. There's always going to be a place for me, no matter how far some of these AI agents and tools go, for example, or how many processes are automated. I'm going to be valuable because I'm applying value to other people, and I'm consciously choosing to do that. And I'm not falling prey to all the storylines online about humans are going to be pushed out. That's one takeaway I would highly encourage. And then the other one is to always remember too, and this is a personal thought for mine, so I will contextualize up front. It could be different for everybody, but having lost my mom this year, who I was very close with, and she was at an age where it was probably getting to a point where that was not going to be out of the realm of possibility. I think it shifted my view a little bit, whereas I was a hustler for a long time, and I still am. I mean, I really believe in hard work. I was brought up that way, but also just know to stop and take a pause once in a while and appreciate those things that we have in our life. And I know this is a very common theme, but I do think it matters, if for no other reason than, I've seen in my life that a lot of work brings you some very tangible results, but unless you're celebrating things with people you care about, there's a hard ceiling. And especially if you're a little later in life, even if you're the recipient of somebody coming home and sharing their experience of their day with you, or on a weekend at a family dinner, be present with them, please, because those things are the ones that are really going to be lasting and memorable, not the report that was delivered, the presentation someone gave, or the EBITDA that increased quarter over quarter. Those are cool, fun things, but the more memorable is what I just shared.
Laura, before you jump in, I just want to say it's funny you should give that advice today, because I was thinking about something very similar, having just spent time with family over the weekend. I was thinking that exact thought. So I appreciate you sharing that. It's really special. And I'm sorry that you lost your mom. I did see that. I remember seeing that on Facebook. So I'm sorry that you lost your mom. She sounded like she was a really wonderful person.
Thanks, Mary. Yeah, she was. I owe a lot to her.
Mm.
And that's this part of the conversation is actually a good setup. So at the end of these Prime Life podcast talks, we like to ask the individuals who join us a question, because it's reflective a lot about what they've shared, but sometimes it gives additional insight, which is helpful. So the question that we like to ask is, Scott, you have an interesting past. You are a very hard worker. You do great work and you help people through their realities. But why is it that you wake up every day and do the work that you do?
I like that question too. I was just talking about this with one of my coworkers the other day. It gets me a little emotional, so I'm going to try to keep that under control, but it's a very real thing for me. And I was just asked this by a younger member of our team. So when I was younger, I alluded to something like this before. I always felt like I had to go the extra mile to stand out. I was the middle of three boys. My older brother and younger brother were better athletes. And this is not a woe is me. Like, they just were. They were just a little better than me in sports. And I was never the charismatic one when I walked. I'm really good when people get to know me. I'm not walking to a room, everybody's like, oh my God, I got to get to know that guy. And I knew that. I recognized that early on. I wasn't very popular in school. So this is just my path. By the time I was out of college, and you combine what I just shared, Laura, with the fact that I was pretty nervous speaking in front of people, I'm like, man, this stinks. I got to get better. So because of my experiences with that, and with things like communication, I just am hell-bent on helping people stand out. I mean, I may do it in the form of helping your small business in the one area that they aren't so good at. I may do it with an occasional call where I'm giving guidance or support around your leadership or communication. I may just be asked to give some advice, business advice, because I have a lot of corporate, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, to your question, in my heart and deep down, what's driving me is that I know what it feels like to be kind of wandering, looking for validation. And I realized that I had to create it for myself. I had to create, but I'll be damned if I'm not going to go out in this world in my day to day and show people through example that you can do it too. Like, you got this, you can do it. And I don't care how great the AI agents and all the technology is, and it's pretty amazing. You still are very unique, and you can go make it happen if you choose, but you got to own it. You don't wait to not only be, I don't like the be saved thing, but don't wait for things to just magically get better. You have to own. I put myself in public speaking experiences that I felt I had no business doing. And I'm like, damn it, I'm getting better at this. And then I started helping people in things I wasn't really sure about either, but I did it. And all that built my confidence. See, and once you have confidence, you then can do. That's why when you ask me, like, we're going to have some questions and different, I'm like, okay, I can roll with whatever, because I've done it before. So, but you got to own it. You got to take it yourself. But that's what drives me.
I love that. Thank you. And I appreciate that too, right? I have one of those opportunities tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. where it's like, we're going to do it. We're going to own it. We're going to sit up there and we're going to kick some ass, and we're going to be really uncomfortable while doing it. But it's going to be great, because they usually are, right?
Oh, it always turns out way better than the story in your head is always worse than the reality, right?
Exactly.
Laura's very humble. She's very good at that. You're going to be great tomorrow.
Thank you. And with that, we'll let Joseph close us out.
Well, Scott, appreciate you taking time today to share your story and insights. Before we close out, is there a way for listeners to get in touch with you if they want to reach out? Just one quick way. We'll put it in the show notes as well.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. So LinkedIn, of course, or both LinkedIn and Instagram, simply my name, Scott Stolze, spelled out. And our business website is growxlabs.com, grwxlabs.com. Welcome any and all, even if you just have a question or anything to run by me at any time, please do. Mary knows I like getting some emails.
Excellent. Appreciate it. And Mary and Laura, always a pleasure having time with you guys. To all our listeners, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another exciting episode. In the meantime, share us with a friend. Give us a thumbs up or a rating or whatever platform you listen to us. Have a great day.
Remember to subscribe to the Prime Life Podcast anywhere you find podcasts. You can find all of our episodes, contact information, and more on our website, primelifepodcast.com. Stay connected with us. Follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.